What's going on, guys? We are going on to lesson four. Hope everyone's doing well, washing your hands, taking it easy. I hope this video finds you in good health. Um, so, just as I apply my hand sanitizer, lesson four, the questions are found on uh, page 391. Question one: What is heresy? Uh, and this actually is on 391 as well. Under the challenge of heresy, despite its power, the church had to deal with heresy, or the ideas that conflicted with church teachings. In the Middle Ages, heresy was regarded as a serious crime against the church. In 1233, the Pope set up a church court called the Inquisition. The Inquisition, their, their task was to question and deal with people accused of heresy. People who are found guilty by the Inquisition were allowed to confess to their heresy and ask for forgiveness. People who refused were excommunicated and punished. The punishment could mean going to prison, losing your property, or even being executed. So that is what heresy is. Question number two. Um, Contrast the characteristics of Romanesque and Gothic architecture. We're going to find this on uh, in your book 386 and 387. It kind of continues on to 387. Uh, Online text, it's just on this one slide. Um, Kind of the first slide. That's the first thing it talks about. Styles in architecture in the 11 and the 10,000s and 1100s. Europeans began to construct many different buildings because medieval society valued religion. Most new buildings were churches or monasteries. Um, Church leaders, wealthy merchants, and nobles supported the building of churches uh, called cathedrals. Many of the medieval churches were Romanesque, or a style that combined the features of the Roman and the Byzantine buildings. Romanesque churches were rectangular buildings with round ceilings um, called barrel vaults. These ceilings were supported by heavy walls and thick pillars. um, Set close together. Churches with small windows let the churches had small windows to let light in. Okay. By the 1150, builders began to construct churches in the Gothic style. They replaced Romanesque heavy walls with what's called flying buttresses. These stone arches extended off the outside walls of the church and supported the weight of the building. They made it possible to build churches with thinner walls and large stained glass windows. Gothic, uh, Gothic churches were taller and had more space than Romanesque churches. So this question is just contrast the chief characteristics of Roman and Romanesque and Gothic architecture. So you're going to want to just basically, for this question, go through this paragraph that I just read and kind of find, what makes Romanesque unique, what makes Gothic unique. Talk about the rectangular building in the Romanesque. Talk about long building or rectangular long building. Talk about rounded ceilings with barreled vaults that supported the heavy walls. Um, And then when you talk about the Gothics, you can say how they replaced the heavy walls with flying buttresses, uh, where stone arches extended off the walls of the church to support the weight of the building. You can also talk about how the Gothic churches were much smaller with more space. Here is a picture of a Romanesque style church. I'm going to lower my camera real quick so you can see it. You can see the rectangular long building. And the inside would look something like that. Here is an example of a Gothic church cathedral. And right here, these are flying buttresses. Right here is a kind of, and this is where the weight of the ceiling went. All right, moving on. I'm trying to fly through this one, make it nice and quick for you guys. All right, so what were the difference between monks and friars? Monks, you kind of learned about in the previous lesson. Most important, okay. Monks were unhappy and wealthy. Okay, blah 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 blah. All right, so you want to look at this basically this to figure out what the friars, uh, uh, what they were, and really, our answer can really be summed up in this: friars were different from other monks. They left their monasteries and took Christianity to the people. Friars preached and served as missionaries and aided the poor. Friars could not own property or keep wealthy uh, personal wealth. And so they were very similar to monks that they couldn't own property or keep personal wealth. But the monks stayed in the monastery, prayed. The friars they left and they were missionaries. So that's kind of the big difference. Question number 4. What did the writings of and the ideas of Aristotle, or why did the writings and the ideas of Aristotle disturb some medieval Christians? This is 388, and this is found under scholasticism. During the 1100s, the idea of the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle had a major influence on Europe. After the fall of Rome in the late 400s, Aristotle had almost been all but forgotten. Muslim libraries, however, had preserved copies of his books. In the 1100s, Muslim and Jewish scholars reintroduced Aristotle to Europe. The ancient philosopher's ideas disturbed many Christian thinkers because his ideas used reason rather than faith for his conclusion. He used reason, and a lot of the Christian thinkers they use their faith in God and whatever they believed in, kind of to explain life. And Aristotle um, used reason and other different approaches that were kind of completely different than the Christians, which dominated at the time. So that's kind of why they clashed. Number 5, question 5. During the Middle Ages, what were two popular types of vernacular literature? And briefly describe each one. Uh, this is 388, I believe. Just double check that for you. Sometimes I forget to change the number the number on the page from the last one because I keep the same format. 388. This is the correct page number 388. Besides Latin, and I'm going to start right here. Besides Latin, each region in Europe had its own language. People used this language called the vernacular in everyday life. Among the vernacular languages in Europe were early versions of English, Italian, Spanish, French, and German. Starting in the 1100s, writers created new literature in the vernacular. Educated people became interested in this literature. One popular type of vernacular uh, was uh, troubadour. Troubadour, or maybe it is troubadour. Troubadour poets often sang poems, especially about the love of a knight for a lady. A second type of vernacular was heroic epics. Epics tell the story of bold knights fighting in the service of kings. The Song of Roland is an epic that was written in France about 1100. This is a tale of a brave knight named Roland fights in the service of Charlemagne against the Muslims. Okay, at this moment, okay, so that you don't have to worry about that next part. So really, you have those two. Make sure you kind of describe each of the two. Right here, what kind of what it is and what it is, and you'll get that question correct. All right, the last question is write a brief announcement that to attract students to a medieval university. Your announcement should include the location of the university, the subjects that the university may study, and the degrees they can earn. I'm just going to read so universities of today trace their origins to the Middle Ages. Uh, Two of the first medieval universities were Bologna and Italy and Paris, France. Universities were founded in England and Oxford and Cambridge. By 1500, Europe had about 80 universities. Groups of students and teachers created the first universities to educate scholars. Medieval universities studied grammar, public speaking, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Teachers read from the text and discussed it while students took notes on small, portable chalkboards called slates. Students did not have books because the books were rare before the European printing press was created in the 1400s. To a degree, students to take a degree, students took oral exams every 4 to 6 weeks. They could earn a Bachelor of Arts and later a Master's of Arts. In about 10 more years, the students could earn a doctor's degree in law, medicine, or theology, the study of religion and God. People with doctorate degrees were officially able to teach and could pursue other careers. For example, the monk Roger Bacon turned from teaching theology to studying the natural world. His interest in using experiments to test ideas helped pave the way for the rise of modern science. All right, so just make sure you guys are on this one. Your announcement, it doesn't have to be too serious, but you know, you're make sure you're hitting all the requirements that your announcement attracts students to a medieval university and your location. Make sure you include the location, whatever city in Europe you want. The subjects, the subjects are listed there. Make sure you include what you're going to have at your university and the degrees that they can earn. And that's in that third paragraph. All right, guys, that's it. That's simple, quick, and easy to this for lesson 4. If you have any questions, please make sure you send me an email, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Hope you guys are doing well. Take it easy. It's Mr. Curry, and I'm out of here.